time for the U.S. Bank Cougar Coaches Show.
It's more important to decide what you're going to do and just explode and do it. They're very young guys.
They're going to get explosive all of a sudden.
Games aren't won on one day. Games aren't won with one play. Games are won over the course of an entire week.
This is the U.S. Bank Cougar Coaches Show on the Washington State IMG Sports Network. U.S. Bank, proud sponsor of the Washington State Cougars. U.S. Bank, the power of possible. Tonight's show is also brought to you by Northern Quest Resort and Casino, by Zeppos, the home for the Cougar Coaches Show, and by Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. Now, live from Zeppos alongside Cougar head coach Mike Leach, here's the voice of the Cougars, Matt Chazanow.
Cougs are 10-1 and ranked 8th in the college football playoff. It is a packed house here at Zeppos. Great to see everybody. 69-28. The Cougs blasted Arizona and are ranked 7th in the AP poll, 10-1 overall, 7-1 in the pack. A chance for 11 wins for the first time. Hey, Coach Leach is here. Coach Leach is here at Zeppos, walking up to the desk. And we'll get Coach Leach on headset in just a moment. We have a very special guest that we'll have up here. We'll put a headset on Staff Sergeant Ronald Schur. He's a Coug. He won the Medal of Honor. It's an amazing story, and we are honored to be able to talk to Staff Sergeant Schur in just a moment. Coach, how you doing? We got you a segment early here. We got you off the practice field, but it's a different schedule. Did you bowl at all out there?
No, I didn't bowl. I watched the pros in there bowling, and so it's pretty clear I could become professional with maybe 2 weeks of practice. But, no, they're in there bowling. Actually, to be honest, almost without exception, and I've lost track, there's always, like these guys will know here, hey, who's the best bowlers?
He's asking Taylor Comfort here. You put him on the spot.
Well, who are the? There's always a handful of guys that go all the time.
Kyle Sweets. Everybody says Kyle Sweets.
What can he roll? What do you think he could get?
160.
See?
But I think it gets up to it gets exponentially higher with a bunch of strikes. I think that's pretty darn good. I think.
Yeah. Well, so they some of them. There's always a group that. They'll come a couple days a week, and then there'll be runs where they go all the time, and then they.
Do you have a set of sneaky dedicated bowlers on the team? Is that what's going on here?
Usually there is. Yeah. I've lost track. I haven't been updated recently. I don't know if Kyle Sweet just checks into the lineup a little bit to show off, or if he's actually a dedicated bowler.
Right. Maybe.
He might be. I'm not sure. And but no, we've had some over the years that they're really into it. They're heavily into it, and they're the type of guys that on a great game may break 200. But typically our better ones seem to be kind of the 160 range.
We've got these little slips of paper that are going to be passed out to everybody. If you have any write-in questions for Coach, please be sure to get those in. You can call in live 866-268-4825 to talk to Coach, or shoot me a tweet at M_Chaz. How was this week of practice leading up to the Apple Cup?
Thought we had a good week. We keep trying to build on 1 week after the next and just get a week better. And I think that it seems to me we've been pretty focused and dedicated on doing that.
You take on a Husky team that's 8-3 overall and 6-2 in the league, and for a moment they dropped out of the rankings, but now there they are at number 16, and they've played good ball this year, haven't they?
Yeah, they've been really good. They've been good. They've been good all year. They're projected to win this league, and really have. They've got some talent. They're tough, and they've played well too. So,
quick recap, very briefly: 69-28. You mentioned something after that game, as a Thanksgiving feast here has just been put in front of you, Coach.
Yeah, got the
full deal. That's the turkey and this just got put on the desk here.
Yeah, so everybody needs to see. Here's how they do it: Zeppos, and the turkey's really moist, so I highly recommend that. This isn't like the Christmas story where you have to go to a Chinese restaurant and they chop off the head of the goose or whatever.
Right.
You can come here to Zeppos and they'll have all your Thanksgiving fixings and things like that. So We need to keep that in mind during the holidays, I believe.
That's corn, that's sweet potatoes, mashed up stuffing, gravy with the mashed potatoes, ham, turkey. That's the whole
And
deal.
the turkey's the best part. The potatoes are really good too.
Well, let's do this, and we have we're going to recap. We're going to listen to a quick recap. 69-28. This is what I was going to say. You mentioned after the game. Sometimes in games like that, when they snowball, no team's really that good, no team's really that bad. That is, as a bunch of the DBs are walking out here. Skylar Thomas, Marcus Strong. Those guys are probably pretty good bowlers too.
Yeah,
a lot going on here at Zeppos.
I don't know if they stay between the lanes when they bowl.
Maybe. Let's do this. Let's listen to a quick recap, take a break, and then we'll get Staff Sergeant Schurer on here live at Zeppos. Great crowd on hand. Let's take a listen, take a break, come back here live. To everybody, we've got the Zeppo's Thanksgiving feast here on the table, and some things are way more important than football, and we are honored to be joined by a Medal of Honor recipient, Staff Sergeant Ronald Schur, and a standing ovation for you.
Thank you.
Mr. Schur, thank you for your service.
Thank you all. It's definitely an honor to be back here. And,
For those listening, it's a standing ovation here at Zeppo's. So you're a Coug.
yes, 97 to 2002.
Yep. You grew up. You're born. I read the bio a little bit. You're born in Alaska, but you grew up in Tacoma. Is that fair to say?
Puyallup.
Puyallup.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, fourth grade on.
And you were in Afghanistan. And can you share some of your story with us of your experience over there and what led to you being a Medal of Honor recipient?
Well, I was a Special Forces medical sergeant, so Green Beret in just simpler terms. And my team had been there. I think it was about 5 months into our deployment. It was my second deployment to Afghanistan. It was just supposed to be another day, just like any other. Go find a bad guy, bring him in. But that day they were ready for us, and so my team is about 15 guys. We had about 100 Afghan commandos with us. We got ambushed by about 200 or so enemy fighters, and they had fixed positions. Basically, as soon as the helicopters left, they opened up with machine gun fire, sniper fire, rockets, everything, and we spent the next 6 hours or so just trying to do the best we could.
Amazing. Well, I mean, thank you for your service and your time. That's incredible, and you're a hero. And thank you for everything. We're honored that you're part of the Coug family. There's so many great Cougs, but what you've done has made us able to play football games for fun on the day after Thanksgiving. And we couldn't do it without you. And it means so much to everybody here, but what you did means a lot more. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Yeah, no question about that. And we're really honored to have you. And I read your story and stuff a couple months ago, and then Senator Baumgartner's told me more about it. I guess he's not a senator no more. And then, but anyway, we're really excited to have you. Glad you're here for the game, and got to meet some of our guys.
Yeah, we're really excited. I'll tell you, when I think it was even before I had the medal, when they told me that I was going to receive the Medal of Honor October 1st, I think I told my wife, like, I kind of hope WSU calls. And so when they called, it was a no-brainer for us to come out, and we're honored to be here and celebrate this weekend and watch the Cougars keep rolling the season.
Can we get and I think I know where this is going to go. Can we get before we cut you loose here and let you enjoy the festivities? Can we get a game prediction from you? How's this going to roll here for the Cougs? We know you are a Coug. We know your heart lies. What's the story? What's the game prediction for you? As you're next to Coach Leach, by the way, there's huge pressure in this. This is.
Well, and I don't make game predictions. This is why he's trying to try it out on you.
That's true.
Okay, well,
He knows
That's true.
I won't.
That's
so
true.
I'm an
it's
amateur.
kind of an initiation.
I'm an amateur. I can do it.
Oh,
right?
have at it. Yeah.
I think
Be aggressive here too. Feel free. Yeah, that's okay.
just watching the way you guys played last week, I think you keep that rolling, get out to a good start, and hopefully
Maybe 69 again. How about that? So maybe 70 this time.
if you could get into the 70s this time, why not?
Well, we were close. We missed an extra point, but other than that.
Can we get a round of applause for Staff Sergeant Ronald Schur? Thank you. And thank you for coming on the show. Thank you
guys.
very much. We'll take a break. Come back here live at Zeppo's.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
24/7 access to all 7 Pac-12 Network's channels.
Thank you. Thank you.
Live
Pleasure to meet you.
events. Original programming on demand.
Hi, I'm Ashley Adamson, back with you in our San Francisco studios.
With the ability to customize what you want to watch wherever you want to watch it.
sponsor of the Washington State Cougars, the power of possible. Once again, here's Matt Chazanel.
All right, back here live at Zeppo's. It's a great crowd on hand, and it is the Apple Cup week. Download the all-new WSU Cougar Game Day app presented by Gus Johnson Ford today. Enjoy exclusive content, apps up-to-the-minute news, live audio, game day offers, and more available in the App Store and Google Play. Download today. We have a ton of write-in questions for you, Coach, and we'll go rapid fire here through them. Some of them have to do with football. Most of them do not, as you might expect. If you could play, this is from John, if you could play in one rock band in their prime, who would it be and what instrument would you play? I think I know the answer to this, actually.
Oh, geez. What would I play? Well, one rock band, as far as the band itself, just kind of the experience, what you do and all that. It would be, it would be hard to beat the Grateful Dead as far as just the whole experience, the magnitude of it, everywhere they go. And it's the Dead, their concerts were like events. It just wasn't, what's your favorite song? Is it your favorite band? No, it's an event. And I would probably play that triangle thing that you hit with the...
Oh, that's just the little triangle.
Yeah, with the dill once in a while.
Yeah.
I mean, that Jerry Garcia would look over and I'd hit it, you see.
Yeah. Thank you, John, for that question. Do they eat jackalope for Thanksgiving in Wyoming? That's from Dan.
You bet they do. They got jackalope everywhere, and if you want to get a horned rabbit, you got to go to Wyoming, and you got to be careful because they're a dangerous animal.
That's a key question. This is signed from Jackaroot. I don't think Jackaroot is here, so this is anonymous, but that was actually pretty funny. How much do you miss walking to your living room each morning and making a living talking football with Jackaroot, signed by fake Jackaroot?
Oh, I enjoyed it. I liked it. I mean, I would.
That was for your radio show.
So Jack Root and I were on the radio for 2 years, and we were on for 3 hours, noon to 3 Eastern, which was a great time. When I first started doing it, because I didn't know anything about being on the radio, I'd read the notes and, try to be really prepared, which I felt like made me over-processed. And because I'm trying to think of the key thing to bring up that happened in football, And so then after about a week of that, I quit reading the notes altogether because we had a lot better shows when Jack could say something and then I could respond to it because then, the response would be like, maybe some of the listeners or something like that. I mean, and there would be genuine surprise and stuff. Oh, that's a brilliant idea. They're doing that. I can't believe they should have done it years ago. Or wow, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. And then Jack Root and I would argue about which team's the best. It was fantastic. I'm friends with Jack Root now, and then. A lot of the shows took place in Key West. It would be hot out there. So I would go out there and I had an exercise routine going then. So during the breaks, I'd try to do push-ups or sit-ups, and they would get mad if I came back after breath. Not Jack Root, but the producers. And then
hang on 1 second. You'd take a break and go rip off some push-ups and come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Each break had to do push-ups. Okay.
That's great.
And then I'd alternate push-ups, sit-ups, push-ups.
Love it.
Okay, then if it got too hot, I'd jump in the pool. And if they heard the splash, they didn't like that either.
Like in the break during the show, you just go hop in the pool?
Yeah. and little do they know, there were times, because it's this little bitty plunge pool, which they're all over in Key West because it's so humid, but it's like, the entire pool's like, I don't know, it's about the size of this stage kind of thing.
Okay.
And then
6 feet by 4 feet, maybe something.
A little bigger than that.
Okay.
But so I'd go sit on the stairs and just sit there talking on my headphones, hoping something didn't electrocute me. Try to keep it all out of the water.
Yeah.
No, it was good. And
we need to do the show from a pool somewhere. Jerry can get us
could
hooked.
do
That'd
that.
be great. Not that maybe we can get pool and Zeppos or something.
Yep, we could do that.
It's a great idea.
We could do that.
I love that. Let's do this is an anonymous question. What do you do to decompress after games? A bunch of hearts on this one, and give him heck, coach. Go Cougs. That's what it says on here.
You know, they kind of run together. Whoever's staying at the house, I go see them. Sometimes staff, sometimes family and friends that show up to the games. And a lot of times it's late, because we've played a lot of late games. And so just to basically stand around the kitchen and catch up what everybody's doing, hear stories, kind of enjoy each other's company. And then it's hard to wind down. Win or lose, it's hard to wind down after a game. And if I'm lucky, I'll be in bed at 4 a.m. if I'm lucky.
We know you like to fish. You've gone to that great fishing trip in Alaska and elsewhere. Do you like to fly fish? And if so, do you have a favorite place to fly fish? And how big of a fish have you caught? Literally a big fish story, maybe. But Chris, an 86 alum here in Pullman.
Okay, I have fly fished one time. It was at the conference meetings or something there in Colorado. Went fly fishing. And
how'd it go?
Had a guy my dad loved to fly fish, and he'd tie flies and all that. What a mess that was. And then this guy kind of showed us how, and I don't know how big it was. It was a reasonably big trout, and I can't remember. I'm going to say a brown or a rainbow. And it wasn't huge. It'd be like, I don't know, maybe a pound and a half, but which is pretty big. And then for especially a high mountain place. Anyway, and then, fly fishing is, what's great about fly fishing is you can feel every twitch or wiggle of the fish. What's horrible about fly fishing is because it's not really fishing, it's casting.
Right.
And then if you really like to cast, become a fly fisherman.
Right.
And then, and even the slightest of wind,
Oh, yeah.
And then, so I'm more into catching, I guess, than I am fly fishing. And if it came down to fly fishing or fishing with dynamite, that would be a pretty close contest with me, because it's got to move a little faster than fly fishing does.
All right, Chris, there you go. We'll go to Twitter here for a question. This is more of a football question. Pullman Wash asks, during halftime in the locker room, who does most of the talking? The offensive coaches, the defensive coaches, you personally, are players allowed to kind of step up and run the discourse? What's halftime like?
Halftime, to start with, at least on offense. Defense, they split into groups. And, well, what I think defense, I'm not 100% sure, and it may vary. So initially, defense will bring up their whole defense on one end of the room. Tracy will address if they go to the position coaches. And then offensively, the positions sit out there. We bring the quarterbacks in the coach's locker room or shower or whatever's available, depending whether you're at home or on the road. And then, the guys up top break down, what the coverages we're seeing, the fronts, and various other stats we keep. And so then we give the quarterbacks the perspective of what we're seeing with the input of the other coaches. Then we set our message, and then I talk to the quarterbacks if I have anything in addition. And then the coaches go and they talk to their position by position. And then we bring up the whole group, and I tell the whole group, offense and defense, my thoughts on things. We try to get out early because, we want to be pretty warmed up. I don't like where somebody's just, taken a knee and sat there, and now all of a sudden it's kickoff. I want them to go out there and move around a little bit before the half starts.
Sure. We got a question here from Mark in Riverside, who may be here. Mark makes the trek from Riverside to Zeppos here often. Chris Peterson in his press conference made a reference to a burger that you walked into the coaches meeting with. I think everybody in here is fairly familiar with it. You commented on it. He wants to know raw onions, grilled onions, or no onions on your burger.
Raw onions.
All right.
Raw
let's
onions,
get that. We took care of that question there.
Yeah, my flight was late. I was not in a good mood either. My flight was late, and I was determined to get something to eat, and finally found that meeting, and And I figured while I was getting the edification of the meeting, why go hungry? Plus, they had other food there anyway, but other people were jealous of what I ate.
No doubt they were. No doubt. Hey, Sherry on Twitter has another quick hitter for you. White meat, dark meat. Your Thanksgiving preference.
White meat.
All right, that's another one. Raw onions and white meat. So there you go. We'll roll right through here. Kinda Curtis, what's your favorite movie and why?
That's tough. It goes back and forth all over the map. It's either The Sting or Rio Bravo, probably.
Some enthusiastic support for those two.
Yeah, The Sting. If you haven't seen The Sting, that's actually worth watching every couple of years.
All right, we'll take a break, come back. We'll talk a little football here. It is Apple Cup week. Cougs and Huskies. We're live here at Zeppo's on the Washington State IMG Sports Network.
In line at 866 Coug Talk, 1-866-268-4825. Live from Zeppo's alongside Cougar head coach Mike Leach. Here's Matt Chazanow.
All right, we're back here at Zeppo's. We're live. It is Apple Cup week. It's the Cougs and the Huskies, and it's the final week of the regular season. Cougs are 10-1. Let's talk defensive football a little bit, Coach. In the secondary, Marcus Strong had the interception last game, going step for step, and that was the first pass attempt of the ball game from Khalil Tate. And Darian Moulton, who's a physical defensive back, has had his flags at times, but really has not given up, but maybe at most one touchdown since 2016. How key have those two outside guys been for you in the defensive secondary?
You know, I think they're both actually still improving. Marcus in particular, I think, has improved as the season's gone on. I think they've got more upside. Of course, it'd be nice to have Darian for another year, but he's out of years. But, Marcus is getting, I think he's getting better and better. He's figured more in the starting lineup this year than any other year that he's played. He's kind of reined in his speed and reaction to things, and part of it was just getting kind of the discipline of eye placement and that type of thing. But, it's like any player, I think, but I think there's still a lot of improvement to be had.
A few years back when Shalom Luani was an all Pac-12 DB, and now he's a Seattle Seahawk, when Shalom was flying around the field in that nickel spot, making all kinds of plays, was he told to do it a little differently than Hunter is? Hunter's already up to 52 tackles now. Was the scheme different when Shalom was doing that, or was Shalom just kind of doing it differently on his own?
Shalom played off more. Shalom played off a little more. And that's the thing. One thing impressive about Shalom, and Shalom only weighed like 185 pounds. And I don't know if I've seen very many people ever hit as hard as Shalom Lawani did at 185 pounds.
Hunter Dale this year at 52 tackles has also been super effective for you too, just a little bit different, right?
Hunter Dale is very much a from the neck up guy. I mean, Hunter Dale is crazy dedicated. I mean, after the fact, I discovered besides just off season, he's got a whole routine he goes ahead and does on his own besides. And then he just has become a really smart player. Just kind of a voice up there on the defense, and just really smart as far as being where he needs to be.
So you have Hercules Mataafa last year, and he's one of the best D linemen in the whole country, and no doubt. And he's moved on to the NFL, and hopefully his recovery is going great. And you still lead the pack in sacks. You're number one in the Pac-12 in sacks with 30 of them. How is Tracy Clay? Yeah, absolutely. How is Tracy Clay, Jeff Phelps? How have they done it? It's got to be a little bit different with Herc on the D-line and Silvels and Taylor on the rush linebacker spot. It's a little bit different this year that way, isn't it?
I think they've done a really good job of giving different looks, adjusting different looks. And I think that, the two Willies, Willie Taylor, Willie Rogers, Silvels, Logan Tago, I think those guys bring quite a bit of speed up there. And mixing those guys around, I think, has been very beneficial. Taylor Comfort keeping people off of those guys, I think, has been big because it's very difficult for one guy to block him, because of his center of gravity and his strength. And then the funniest thing is to watch those arms just, it looks like he's, I don't know, just almost moves like the backstroke, just both of them fluttering. Not at the same time, so if you dodge one, you'll get hit with the other, but a lot of times two guys have to block him, and then the others are singled up, and they're fairly quick guys, and so but I think because we're smaller than I think we're the smallest defensive line in the conference, but we're definitely one of the quickest.
Is this the best football Logan Tago's played for his career as a senior?
Yes, it is.
He's been up to 10 tackles for loss now, 10th in the pack in tackles for loss. He has been really good. All right, let's go offensively here. As great as Gardner's been, he can't do that without great offensive line play, right? Has this O-line in your eyes been great? And I know that word can be overused sometimes, but only 9 sacks this year is impressive.
Well, I think they're improving. I think our offensive line's improving. I think they've played well. I think for a position that's as choreographed as offensive line is, I think they've kind of come together quicker than most that I've had for sure. We're ridiculously young there. We got freshman, sophomore, junior, sophomore, senior. Okay, yeah. And so and 3 of them are flat out new faces there. So then. I think they've played well. I think they continue to improve. Gardner does a good job of not taking negative plays, and so the combination of those two has been good. And then I also think as our receivers have gotten more snaps between them, we've gotten better at, in other words, stuff can happen quicker out there as you're throwing the ball.
You ever seen a more developed freshman than Abe Lucas? He's a redshirt freshman, but 6'7", 320 at that right tackle spot. Have you ever seen a better first-year player than Abe?
Well, I've never seen one built like him, I don't think. I mean, Abe's one of those guys that looks like he's been playing for a while. Yeah, 6'7",
320. I remember in Lewiston he told me he wasn't used to his own. He said guys came at him now and they bounced off. And he was dominant.
Yeah, that definitely surprised him a little at first. He didn't expect that to be the case. And, if you're that strong, that's just the way it is.
Amazing. Minshew
we got others like that. Roderick Fisher's going through that as we speak.
Changing body, you're saying,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, and, he'll put his arm on somebody or shove somebody. And and the only person surprised that the guy goes flying is Roderick Fisher, you see. And then Desmond Patman's like that, but starting to come out of that, because for a long time, when he plays hard and fast and plays big, people go flying if he's near him too. So
6'4", 212 is what he's listed. He may be a little heavier than that
I think
now.
he's a little heavier.
Yeah, he's been playing really well. He had touchdown reception last game, the fourth of his season. And then, Gardner, north of 70% completions now, set the school record for touchdowns last game. 7 touchdowns in one game. And no interceptions. And then maybe that's the key as well. 7 touchdowns, no picks.
I think it tied the Pac-12 too.
Did.
Well, yeah, and I think that's good. If I felt like if we were an older, more established group and Gardner had been here for a while, it'd probably be higher than that. But I think as a team, we're still improving, and I think we still have some upside, and we need to get as much of that this year as we can.
Well, you've seen a lot of it out of Aesop Winston this year, right? He's a guy that didn't play last year. He redshirted last year, JUCO transfer, and you said at times he has some of the best ball anticipation of any wideout you've ever coached.
He's very good at judging the ball. Very good at judging the ball. One of those guys, when he's tracking the ball, doesn't have his hands up the whole time. Puts them up at the last instant. The ball's exactly where he expects it to be, and I think he can read a ball after it's gone a short distance off the quarterback's hand and know the spot and get to that spot, which is a unique ability and one that you try to enhance with all receivers, and he's a very good example of that.
8 touchdown receptions this year. For the world's most refreshing beer, 21 means 21. Celebrate responsibly with Coors Light, Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. We'll come back, talk Huskies a little bit here. We're live at Zeppo's. Cougs take on Washington on Friday at 5:30, the kick here on the Washington State IMG Sports Network.
This week's game with the Coors Light Opponent Preview. Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer.
All right, back here live at Zeppo's. It's that part of the show where we talk about the opponent a little bit, and everybody knows the opponent is Washington this week. Coach, when you are looking at film and you're looking at how to break this defense down, some booze raining in for the Huskies, what'd you see? What'd you see this year's version of the Husky defense?
You know, it's almost like it's getting awfully repetitive because they're physical, they're big, they're always physical. They have kind of a veteran defensive back group, and it's kind of more of the same. And we played against probably 2/3, 3/4 of them last year. So
It's a lot of returning names: JoJo McIntosh, Taylor Bryant, Byron Murphy. I should say Taylor Rapp, Miles Bryant, and Greg Gaines. I mean, they do lose Vita Vea. They lost Buda Baker and King and Jones, and they're all in the NFL now. They've had a ton of talent on the defensive side.
yeah, they've stacked the NFL shelves with players. Both sides of the ball, probably defense more.
Yeah, they've had a ton of DBs go pro. What do you make of a team where you have a middle linebacker? And this is more of a, like 20, 30 years ago, you saw this more regularly than you do now. But Ben Burke-Kirvin, their middle linebacker, has 145 tackles. And their second leading tackler has 65. So you have one guy making this huge percentage of their tackles. What do you make of that? Is it just them funneling the ball to him, or is he that fast sideline to sideline? How does that work?
I think it's a little of both, to be honest with you. It's a little of both. And then some of the teams that they've played are kind of predominant run teams, and so then, you make up a lot of ground there. A lot of those plays are going to go to him.
And that's where that used to come from, right? Because teams used to run the ball a little bit more often, or maybe a lot more often than some do now.
They're always pretty stingy on the run, because they got all the size in there, and then they'll mix it up on, who's coming, who's doing what.
How good is Greg Gaines, their defensive lineman, 316-pounder?
Oh, he's good. He's really good. He was good last year too.
Yep, he was down there with Vita Vea. All right, let's flip it now. Myles Gaskin is looking to be a 4-year, 1,000-yard rusher. He's Coug fans are certainly familiar with him. He's a pretty impressive back, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a good back. Similar to Max in some ways. They're built sort of similar. And then they don't throw in the ball as much as we throw our backs. But no, he's a good player. He's been very steady for them.
Savon Ahmed is their backup running back, but he plays all the time. I put backup in air quotes for those listening on the air here, and he's super fast, has big burst once he gets the ball, doesn't he?
Yeah, he comes out of his cuts and is first real quick first step or two.
One of Chris Peterson's things is the trick play. He likes to use 2, 3, 4 trick plays per game. Is that fair to say?
That's probably on the high end, sometimes. Yeah, they're into shifts to begin with, so they're always shift, and then guess where the play's going and trying to overlap you. But then within the context of that, they'll pop out of it and pull a trick out.
Yeah, so and when you say overlap, it's one of those deals where they try to get the whole field going one way and then flip.
It's a little like Stanford, where they would shift their tight end, shift their lineman, maybe even motion a receiver in there to get you out leveraged, and then work the ball that direction. But do enough that you're off balance and it's tough to react, and maybe you can't get that extra guy in there.
How about the red shirt rule this year? Was one very much talked about for freshmen. For instance, the Cougs played Amir Crowder for the first time last game, and he may or may not play again this week. But they have a senior, Trey Adams, an All-American left tackle who's been out, who just started playing last week and could play this week. He didn't play a ton, I think, but they could redshirt him, and he could come back for a 5th year next year. In fact, they said that's the intent, but that's kind of the redshirt rule on the flip side of things. Not a freshman, but an All-American senior.
Yeah. No, you could do that. I think it's a good rule. And I think it keeps guys engaged better. I think, so you feel a little less isolated there your freshman year sometimes, and then. So I do think it's good.
All right, quick preview of the Huskies there. U.S. Bank, proud sponsor of the Washington State Cougars. U.S. Bank, the power of possible. We're up against a break. We'll take it here. Come back live at Zeppo's on the Washington State IMG Sports Network.
Hockey call-in line at 866-COOG-TALK. That's 1-866-268-4825. Now, back to the show.
We are back here live at Zeppo's. Just talked some football, Husky preview, and it is the Apple Cup week. We're going to roll through some more questions, some write-ins here from Zeppo's. We do have one more break to take. So, Coach, you love multi-sport athletes, and we've had a lot of rugby players, a lot of soccer players on the team. Have you ever considered, this is a question right in here, have you ever considered recruiting a sumo wrestler to be a nose guard for your defensive line?
We actually talked about for offensive line. Robert and I worked with me. He's the offensive line. I'm not sure he's still coaching O-line, but played O-line at BYU, worked with me, coached O-line for me, who is a big fan of sumo. In Hawaii, they have a certain amount of sumo going on, and he's a big fan of it, understands it. And we actually, and I don't know the details, we actually have joking thought about it, but he did point out there's a tremendous training process and stuff to it, and you'd have to adjust it. I mean, back off on some of the poundage and tighten it up a little bit, but that they do have remarkably good feet in small spaces, and which would make for good offensive linemen.
Yeah, it seems like a valid from one step to the other. I always thought a sumo wrestler would be a great hockey goalie. I don't know anything about hockey.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Right? It just kind of.
You wonder somebody with quick reactions why they're not all 400 pounds. That's a good maybe Hungana if he's got good hand-eye coordination.
Right.
He could be a hockey guy.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. Okay, this is a little bit early. It's not really in the season. What's the worst Christmas present you've received ever?
Oh, dress socks. Yeah, I'll open a box one time. Here's some dress socks. And like sweaters, I hate all those too. Yeah, here's a sweater or a tie. I mean,
I love it. All right, so next one here. What do you think? Who do you think made better Western movies, Clint Eastwood or the Duke?
Difficult to say. If forced, I'd have to go with the Duke because classic, set the stage. Both withstand the test of time. Both outstanding. Hard to not like the style of the Clint Eastwood movies for sure. But they're both great. Westerns would be incomplete without those, either one of them, by a lot.
This is we're all over the map here. This is not the easiest question. Using only the continent of Australia, which animal embodies the spirit of this team?
Oh, continent of Australia embodies the spirit of the team. Probably a platypus. Because we have the ability, we're multitaskers, we can do a lot of things, and we have a lot of skills melded together in a team that surfaces at key times when we need them.
Love it. Jim is here from Hawaii. Jim's from Maui. Platypus is a great one. Coach, does the rain forecast maybe snow? Maybe a little bit of snow. Does the weather change the game plan, especially the pass attack? Do you look at that?
Not a lot. No, not a lot. There's not a lot you can do. We'll just see how it is. Of course, it's wrong half the time. I mean, if it says 20% rain, my wife's convinced it's going to pour. And I said, what about the 80% chance it won't rain? And that never registers. But we'll see. I mean, we'll be there one way or the other.
All right, clock never winds down at Northern Quest. 24/7 gaming, great restaurants and lounges, movie theaters, luxury rooms, and more. Details at northernquest.com. Take a break, come back. Just a few minutes left here live at Zeppo's with Coach Leach.
There's a new season on Pac-12 Network.
All right, we're back here live at Zeppo's. It is our final segment before we cut loose for Thanksgiving. And we had a youngster come up here, I believe it was Kendon, came up here, and Coach, he wanted you to have this. And Gardner had given you one previously, but that is a mustache, if you could imagine why. And should you choose to put that on, that would make him
we got an
pretty
outstanding mustache here.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, absolutely.
It would look like that. He doesn't have the patience for me to go ahead and grow one, so I'll put this on at some key time maybe.
Somebody asked me on Twitter if you'd ever grow one. Have you ever? I know you.
I did in law school.
That's right.
Yeah, I can't remember how long I had it. Maybe 6 months.
How'd you feel about it? I mean, you took it
off.
off.
It was okay. I was watching Lonesome Dove for the second time and decided to grow one and did. And didn't love it, but, my wife hated it, and so that was entertaining to harass my wife with it. So I kept it probably an extra 4 additional months than I would have naturally, but because I knew at some point that era would be over. So
no doubt, yeah. Well, that's good. Maybe maybe it comes back, maybe it doesn't. But you've got that now.
We'll see. So that'll come in handy.
It could very well come in handy. I want to take a moment to recognize some people here who do such a great job for us. Jerry Kylo fan club here. Jerry Kylo does great work, gets us on the air and does amazing work in all kinds of places, not just Pullman, but he travels with us everywhere. Jared Prengruber hates attention, so this is one of my favorite parts. He's in the corner there. Jared's a phenomenal video guy here. Josh Stoller does great work here. He's like a bodyguard after the show because we got to talk to Coach Leach and whatnot. Dom Catronio's back in the studios. He's in our ears. He does a great job. And thank you guys for coming. Thanks to everybody here at Zeppo, standing room only. Great night tonight. We had a Medal of Honor recipient. Coach, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
All right, go Cougs.